Hi, I'm MutationCIP, and welcome to something of a little bit of a different video. We're gonna be doing a shell challenge, and it's shamelessly ripped from Sims 4 challenges, but I thought it'd be fun to do. This is gonna be used mostly vanilla, except for one little thing which I thought would make it fun. How do I get this? In order to randomize my shell and actually make myself a little shell, I'm gonna use a d20 to figure out all the dimensions of what in the world we're gonna build. So first, the height. 20. Lovely. Can I... This is gonna be interesting. That was probably the worst poll I could have ever done, and I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna make this work. I'll find a way. We're gonna get 10. I should have said what that was gonna be. Guess I'm just gonna do the length. And now the width. 12. Yeah, that's definitely a shell, because how in the world am I supposed to turn that into a house? We're gonna use a lot of tricks for this one, that's what we're gonna do. 2. 2 blocks out. Okay. How far that way? 14. Lovely. How tall is this? 4. 18. That way. And how far out? 16 out. How tall is this thing? 4. How far out am I going? Lovely. Is this just gonna be my wraparound porch? Yes, it seems like it is. How tall? 10. I was imagining the shell challenge to be a house, but at this point, I think it'd be best as some sort of barn or saloon. But this is certainly an interesting shape to work with. And I'm gonna go over what I want to add on inside in concrete. The problem with a shell challenge is I can't destroy any of the walls we just placed. I'm gonna allow myself to, like, replace them if I want to, like, change it out for a block. But otherwise, I am not allowed to move these or super cover them up. If I'm making, like, a bay window, yeah, I'm gonna cover it up a little bit. But I'm not allowed to strictly change what's going on here. I just gotta get very creative with what's all we're doing. Stables and saloon? That would be a thought. Do a large curved roof going on here with a couple outputs, and then I could have outputs. Like the little windows you see on some roofs. Do couple of those, have rooms over here, saloon bar down here, some executive stuff up there, maybe? That's the best I can think of to work with this ridiculous shape. There we go, something going on like that, which makes this feel not as bad going on. Although it could be moved a little bit. Yeah, it feels a little bit better, they were way too close. Now, how do we make the rest of this feel better? We can extend out this front porch that we have going on. Not all the way. Create a little intrigue right here. Probably do a double window, pretty tall one. And we have more than enough room. I can do separate ceilings and floors and have a little fun with that. And do a little roof like that. So we're breaking up more of this until it's something we can actually handle a little bit of. And we're gonna do the same thing up here. And how many windows can I actually manage back here? Just do 2 doubles? Yes. We got a pattern of doubles going on, so I'm gonna try and keep that going on. And how much room do I still have above that? Can I get away with yet another? I can get away with 3 stories for this bad boy. I'm almost tempted. I don't know if this would break the shell challenge rules. I feel like it would get rid of the wall here. So it would, but I almost want to pretend that's a facade. But I think this is gonna have to do. But it feels like an apartment building next to a barn, so I don't know how to manage that. I could be a little cheaty here, mayhaps perhaps, and have this area be a basement, so I only have 2 floors to work with. If we raise the ground level to at least about here, which would make sense for this is now, instead of being a side porch, It's now a little back alley, so you can't actually get down to this area and get back up, which makes sense given the landscape around me as well. And suddenly this is gonna feel a lot more manageable than I can actually do a facade. And it also acts as basement access on this side. If we like full on ignore that bottom area, that's starting to look a whole lot better and not nearly as ridiculous of a building. Is a little loosey-goosey on the rules, yeah, but there is literally nothing stopping me from just moving the ground up. That definitely feels a little bit man-made, but I'm not all too upset by it. It probably just needs a fair amount of grass on it. There we go, now that doesn't look too bad either. And we can build up a nice door right there. And that's looking a whole lot better for wear. And now, so this can actually make sense to literally anyone that's watching. Actually, time to pick out some block palettes for this. I'm thinking some rusty colors. Thanks to Axiom, I could actually just find that a little bit. Definitely some jungle. Mix these three together. I really like doing this. I've done this for a bit. Maybe I've always wanted to try and find a good use for this. I want to use blocks of iron. I feel like a lot of these together makes a nice tannish rocky texture that I really adore. I want to try and use that for the basement if I can manage it. I can do some granite decals as well. I think we can really pull this off. And this is something I will use Axiom for. I've changed this main block to be all white wool so it doesn't connect to places I don't want it to. And we're gonna do a little bit of a noise painter. I want meatball? No. Splatter, there we go. I want a little bit more of the stripped jungle wood in there. We get something a little bit like this. It gives a very beigey, run-down look that I want. And up here, before we hit this part, I'm also going to do a double banner up here with a little extra detail. Beautiful. And now before we get too ahead of ourselves, I want to tackle the basement. I'm going to come through here and specifically / replace, because I like using a balance of world edit and Axiom. We're going to replace the stripped jungle log, jungle planks, and any oak planks with raw iron block. There we go. And I'm definitely going to need something that can tone this down, something more saturated than this, because this feels heavily detailed compared to that right now. So I'm gonna have to be fairly careful of my color choices from here. And this layer is gonna be floor, and so will this layer. And then this spot can be rafters. I feel like I want to go all in on the raw iron. If you only do one command, it's going to replace everything in its path with that block, and it'll save you a little bit of time. I feel like oak is a good option here. To just tile it, tune it back a bit, bring it back down. We know this general vicinity is going to be whatever the floor is going to be. Probably spruce. I feel like spruce is a nice dark muted tone that's not super dark. Otherwise, I would go with dark oak, but this fits the dullness of all the other colors. Or the hue, I suppose is the word I'm going for. We're not going to have direct access to this either. I'm just going to place down a temporary block until we figure out exactly what's going on here. I do know I want to try and get a staircase going down and also one going up somehow. I don't know how we're going to manage to fit that all in this space. I feel like it's just going to have to be two separate things. This will be a porch instead and not actually connect much of anywhere else. There we go. That creates a little more interest down here, and now the iron's feeling a lot more of a paler block. We can do some mud brick stairs because dirt stairs don't exist. I wish they did. They do not. We could also do a start to these pillars, add a little more interest to this, maybe? It is a piece of interest. I'm not sure if it's a good one. It might be better to do the opposite. That feels too fancy for what we got going on then. This feels more like framing. Having the oak in the middle feels more like fancy columns. I'm just gonna do a nice simple tall door. Honestly, just leave it at this. Or perhaps, because I do have the materials available to me, if we push this one in, which isn't too noticeable most of the time, majority of the time you can get away with it not really being noticed unless you need to place blocks here. But then you can have fun with a little design right here. And now we got a little something around the door. I'll add that probably be better as a front door, not a back door, but whatever. Now, how to handle this one? I'm thinking probably pull off some storage racks, use the jungle wood, so it's a different color but still matches up pretty well. I want to try my hand at making something of a boiler. I'm not too sure of that. Also tempted to instead do this down below, but I feel like that's even worse. Probably best to just go with no detail and let the mind figure out what it is. Or can I make just an actual straight up? Yeah, we can do that. And that gives a few little particles as well. My particles are currently broken from my shaders. I like that a whole lot, actually. And this is a trick that's pretty popular, but I'm still going to use it anyway. Make it look like it's filling up into the little pots. And also leave a fair amount of boxes laying around. Nice. And there's a finishing touch I want to do. I want to add in some pale moss and also some dead coral to make this place really feel old. Is it the healthiest? Absolutely not. But that's kind of the goal. And I want to see, can I give a singed effect right here? Packed mud could do the trick. Oh, yep. Yep. Nice. I'm rather happy with that. I think we finally move on to literally all the other rooms. Oh, I didn't even realize that kind of came through. That's when we add a few coral fans around it. And we act like this was intentional and not at all a mistake. And then we need a block for this little lining. We've been back and forth between a couple different variants of red-orange. So something in that range, maybe mud bricks? That kind of blends in very well. And it's got a purple hint to it. You can mostly see if you really focus in on these pixels, you can really pick it out. And now you notice it a lot more. These are hued red. These are hued like a heavy yellow brown, a little pinkish there. It's simple details that go a far way with this build, but mostly a yellow brown. And then we got a purple. It's all in the tiny details. And before I get too ahead of myself, let's actually make something out of this. This is one of my go-tos. I don't know if it's the best call for this. And that feels a little too much for what we got going on as well. I honestly think just a simple stair wraparound should be more than enough. Yeah, I'm really liking the look of that. It's not a whole lot, but it is there. I forgot I was going to do granite. Oh well, we're doing this now. I feel like granite would have been too much red for what's going on anyhow. There we go. We're going to lead the eye up the window with that little trick. I feel like that matches in a little bit too much with that though. So we'll shorten the windows, but still make them feel a bit bigger with that little trick. Yeah. Or maybe just let it be. Let it be a bit of a short window. Because otherwise we bring the brick a little bit too close up to everything else. Yeah, that is a fantastic frame. And all we gotta do is line this. Nice. That is starting to feel like a saloon. I don't want to quite do brick for this little overhang on the side. So I'm feeling, do a little mix here and there. Do something like that. There we go. So it feels like we got a little bit going on here. It's not a whole lot, but it is a little something something. And I don't have a full 3 every middle, so I can get a little creative with this and make it feel like it is, perhaps? Or can I do every 2? No, I cannot. Is there a distinct middle block? No, there's not. It's a double center, which means we can do something like this, which should be fairly fitting for a saloon. And then just change a few of these over to, oh, that doesn't feel half bad. There is also the roof I need to start considering. Maybe this is the time I bring in the granite. I don't hate that. It does feel a little bit out of place, but so does that down there. So I feel like it almost starts to fit in. There we go. Yeah, I'm starting to really like that. We're gonna do another slightly different, but still overzealous little front window or front door. Perhaps better to do something like that this time, or just go full in on the shelves. You know, that's not bad now I'm thinking about it. I'll stick with it. And I'm thinking if I could get away with it for the side area, make these feel like a pair of open doors like that, because there isn't a lot I can do here aside from organize it as a cute little terrace. That's about it. That's all I can do. So I might as well make it work for the best of it. And considering how I've been doing most of this, I'm thinking I almost want to do trap door windows for this, which would also give a look that matches with everything else and a look that kind of fits as well. There we go. I'm starting to really like that. It's definitely got some charm to it, if that's a word for it. I'm thinking to give a little zest to up here, do something like that maybe. No, Just the walls, maybe. It's not a horrid look. Yeah, I feel like that balances out a bit more because it felt like there was nothing going on here and I don't have the space to do that window either. Yeah, that's perfectly at a column, so I can't pull it off. And I still haven't done the barn, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. Now, can I manage to do anything right here is the question. There's, of course, banner art, but I don't feel like that quite fits in this space. Can I write saloon in trapdoors? I don't have the room for that. I do have the room for bar. Hold on. Yeah, trapdoors are awkward. Can I do it in slabs and stairs? There we go. That'll do. It's a little goofy, but it certainly works. Kind of. Oh wait, I can do all of these small if I do that. There we go! Bar! I wish I could lower or heighten this, but I can't really do that. So it is what it is. Unless... Wait, I can make this really seamless if I do this. There we go! It's a bar! I'm amazed I was able to pull that off. Alright, interior and somehow squeeze in stairs. Probably literally right here. I think now would be actually a good time to bring in some dark oak, perhaps. Or I could do my favorite countertops, aka spruce wood. Get some old-fashioned bar stools in here. You know, I was going against it, but I think I will make this a double wide. I want it to just be a tiny little staircase, but I feel like this is gonna make the room feel better and give me the dimensions I want. Yeah. That feels a whole lot better. And it also lets me build up some fake cabinets over here. And then do buttons on each of those. And I know the cauldron's the way to go for most things, but I much prefer doing a little hopper. It feels like an actual sink you would see. A cauldron just, you know, feels like a cauldron. And we're gonna make a little, if I can actually manage to, a little shelf up here. Put a couple of these about the place. There we go. I can't fit a whole lot in here, but what I am able to fit does give it the vibes we want. I wonder something. I'm very curious. I may have to do some tricks to do this, but can I just, as long as I make sure it can't move. What? That's a mod thing, probably. No, it's not. Are we not allowed to do that anymore? They finally removed my favorite hack. That sucks. Kinda, but not really, because I know you can. It's not the weirdest one out there. It's a thought, that's for certain. We've got a couple options here. I can do a good old anvil, a grindstone, or cauldron. I feel like a cauldron is probably going to be the best bet here because I don't want to use pots again. We've been using that for this. There is also a note block and a weird shout, but a brown shulker box. No. I'm back and forth between the cauldron and the note block. I feel like a cauldron gets more of the functional that I want. So cauldron it is. Can I just... Yes, a couple people left their cups out here. There we go. And doing this also creates a kind of separate section just for the barkeep back here. Nice. And it's just a little touch of green to balance all the reds and browns. Probably look better if I didn't have see-through leaves off, but I do. And there's still the upstairs to handle. Do a pretty small space. We don't need a tremendous amount of room for this. And we can set up a few rooms accordingly, which makes them all almost the same size. Not quite. And having all the doors over here lets me put something over here that won't be inherently in the walkway, but add a little bit extra going on. But that doesn't quite match up with the rafters. So I'm thinking of doing this and make an open ceiling concept. Or we can change about the rafters specifically for this. There we go. Something that keeps a fairly consistent pattern that still feels like the rafters we've been doing. And it occurs to me my one downfall, lighting, because that is mildly important. I'll see how these... No, normal lantern it is. There we go, that'll do. It doesn't quite fit the saloon, but it gives the kind of atmosphere I want, so we're sticking with it. Just have this room be a single. It's fairly cramped, but it gives the right kind of vibes that I want going on in here. The wall's barren though. Little shelf right there. I could put some pots or something up there later. This room, I'm gonna do a double. Basically the same thing we did prior, unless I want to change it up a little bit, but it's hard to do in such a small space. Slightly different, but still kind of same vibes going on. Not too different. And I don't want this to be a carbon copy. We can have this be a double. There we go. So every room's ever so slightly different. Actually, this one I could probably do this. for something a little different. And in here, put it up there. So we have very, very slight differences, but differences nonetheless between the rooms. Just the little details to make it come alive. We can do the same thing right here and do a fake-ish railing right here. Not too shabby. I really want to go the extra step. We could put some stuff up here though. Do a little something something in a couple corners. There we go. Now that's starting to really feel like rafters. Maybe just another one right there. Wonder if I can swing a fake ladder. There we go. Got a fake way going up. Not too shabby. I want to continue with a few details here and there if I can manage it. Especially in like this little back corner that's going to be covered up by the barn. There we go. That's starting to give it some really good character. Something like that. Some word to that extent. That's as happy as I'm gonna get with that for the moment. Off my property! Out of my swamp! Now you look right. Goodbye. And now the lovely little barn. I feel like this is where we're really gonna start to bring in the granite. And there's our base. Although there's still question of what in the world I'm gonna even be building in here and how I'm gonna attach it to this little side basement space. And if I still want to attach it to this front area, I think this isn't too bad of a thing to have right there. I don't know how to make it make sense with the rest of the roof, so I think we're gonna stick with that instead. I think there's no better place to start than the rafters like we've been doing. Not half bad. There's also still the front to consider. There we go, that's looking better for wear. I forgot to do the windows. Maybe we could do something similar to what we had going on with this porch here. Not too bad, not too bad. It still needs more decor though, because half of this is pretty barren. But that is due in part to the weirdness of what I have going on here, so I can't do this there. Unless I move this over, which I most certainly could. There we go, much better. Or I could even go as far as doing this and just make this like a split off area, so at least I'm dissecting this a little bit. It kind of goes back on what I just did, but whatever. It separates out the space a little bit more, which is what I want. And I think it's time that we figure out floor as well. Probably some variants of dirt, not too much going on. There we go. Now it's starting to feel a little bit more like a barn. There we go. It's got some actual path getting tracked in. And can I just a bit of lighting randomly about and mod as well. Do a couple composters in lieu of troughs. And we're using these wet sponges, well, not sponge, horn coral blocks. So it's nothing more than just a little extra detail because there's not a lot else as in way of hay. There's only so much you can do with that. There we go, and once again a little fake ladder to get up. But ta-da, little barn. Should probably use some lanterns up here though. There we go. And now it just needs those final touches. Instead of the shelf, I'm gonna do little fence and trapdoor this time, which should give a fairly good barn effect. And now time for the fun effects. There we go. Now that's looking a lot more lively. And I'm gonna stick a few here or there. Here we go, a little bit more. Make it feel very alive. Even if it is fungal, fungal is still alive. And maybe we do a small little lantern lit space back here. I still need to do the doors before I forget. And we're just gonna continue the open door trick from earlier. I really like that. It's slowly getting taken over little by little. And I'm not gonna ignore the sides either. These probably aren't gonna get seen. I'm doing it anyway. And even better. This was an insane shell to work with, but I think in the end, this has actually turned out quite beautiful. If a little abandoned, run down, but that's kind of been the point. And it probably doesn't fit into plane, so we're just gonna fix that. There we go. That's starting to fit a little more. Or maybe a savanna would be better. There we go. That gives some beautiful frame into this area. And if I go full screenshot mode, that is gorgeous. I really like that. If you want to try out the shell, I'm gonna put it up over on Tumblr and Bluesky, the little blueprints for it. And feel free to reply at me and show me what you made. But that'll be it. Thank you all for watching. PassionSMP will be back on Sunday. And if you guys really like this, I plan on trying to do more of this. I'd love to get some of my friends on PassionSMP and do some co-ops of trading each other different shells and so on. But for now, that'll be it. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hi, I'm MutationCIP, and welcome back to Passion SMP. And I'm gonna experiment a little bit here with this video. We're gonna see if you even notice it. Oh. I was gonna go mess with them. Yeah, I figured they were AFK. They're both just